Why is my thing dirty? Hello, beautiful souls. Let's see. I think I need to clean that. 1 second. Okay. Let's see if this is better. I think better. I hope so. Let me just get started. Oops. Okay, so I hope it's better now. I want to do this live to go over 21 divisions, different stages of 21 division development, and we also going to cover the different odus. I spoke about how the odus have the two sides of the coin. The two sides of the coin is one that is always expanding and one that is contracting. So we're going to be talking about that because I find that fascinating, to be honest. So it's been a while, so I just wanted to check back in with you guys and give you some more information about just life in general and why different things happen for different purposes when we're going through our spiritual development. So this is a random live, so I don't know how many people are going to come through, but if you do, definitely leave a comment and any observations. And I think it's going to be fascinating because I always find this stuff fascinating, even though every time I go through my notes and stuff, I'm like, wow. So definitely should be a fun day. Okay, so I spoke before about the 21 divisions and the different stages when it comes to 21 division. And I need to go over this again before I get into the odus so that you can see the similarities of how the life cycles, no matter if you're in any spiritual practice or anything at all, just you going through your journey, you will see and appreciate the different life cycles by understanding this. So that's why I want to go over this. Um, and I want you to, this is a channel to expand our mind. So it's not that I know everything. I'm just here receiving information, sharing with you. So when it comes to my conversations with you, I want you to take it as a friend talking to you, like I think a lot of people think, oh, if this person is here talking, they must know everything. And it's not like that. We don't have all the answers. We are all receiving different pieces of information. And even the things that we read in books, is only that person perspective in those books. So I just want you to keep that in mind so that you can take this as a conversation. Obviously, I want everybody to be respectful in terms of the comments and things that you want to share with everybody here. As long as we keep it respectful, we can have different opinions. So when it comes to us understanding why we go through the different life cycles and how it relates to the different stages, even within 21 divisions, or even if you're in Ifa, Santeria, where you have your odus, and those odus give you a better, deeper understanding of what you're going through. Because that's the purpose of the odu, to help us understand part of the reason why we have the things that we do, challenges, positive and negative aspects of ourself, characteristics, personality, and so on, and abilities, right? So even the odus are supposed to change over time. And, a lot of people think it's only one and that's it. So let's just keep an open mind when it comes to that. So anyways, let's start with 21 divisions, the different stages of 21 division. What happens before you go through the different stages is that you are going to notice that you're going through major towel moments. You might be going through a lot of different illnesses, things that doctors cannot find answers for, at least at the beginning, because it hasn't become a physical illness. It might be an energetic illness where the energy is messed up because it's chaotic because it's trying to call your attention. So You might also be experiencing a lot of past life memories, parallel lives, and childhood memories. You might be connecting with your ancestors and spirit team when you're sleeping or in your visions. You might be feeling very detached from regular life in terms of, losing some of your let's go get it type of energy, because things are a little chaotic, to be honest. So you might not be 100% there like before. You might be having a lot of different things happening with, brain fluid release. It could be relationships that start to fall apart. And the reason why the relationships start to fall apart is because you're resonating at a different frequency than before. And even though it's chaotic, there is a change in you. And therefore, the people around you are no longer resonating at the same frequency. And we can talk about this more if this interests you. But basically, because you're resonating at a different frequency, you are almost kind of seeing between the veil, but not 100% yet. But something is not 100%. So you might be seeing between the illusion, Maya, right? What we're calling, what some of us call it, that Maya, that illusion. We might be seeing in between that. And therefore, your vibration starts shifting a little bit to the point that it becomes a lot. And eventually, some people just fall out of your life. You might become more intuitive, more in touch with your emotions, so much that is too much. It's freaking you out. It might be freaking others around you, because they're, from one day to another, you go from being sensitive to being super sensitive. So now you're just becoming annoying to other people. And those people are easily triggered by those, and you are too. So you might be very sensitive to that. You might be waking up to the empath abilities. So your sensitivity goes really fast, very, very much activated, to the point where it becomes, you can cry for no reason sometimes, because you're feeling something, but you don't know where it's coming from. You might be feeling homesick for a place that you don't know. A lot of starseeds people go through this, feeling very homesick. Some people experience a lot of deja vu moments, from you having little moments to having a lot of deja vus. And it's like, what is going on? You may be feeling very connected to nature, animals, trees, plants in general. You might be feeling something out of the corner of your eye, but you don't really capture that, but you're starting to, and everything is just kind of freaking you out. There is a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos, but it's organized chaos in the way that is leading you to a bigger awakening. But you just don't know that might be happening. You might be having a lot of hearing problems, like feeling like you're hearing or your sounds, but you're not sure. You might be talking to different energies, and you don't realize that that's what you're doing in your sleep, and you might be waking up very tired. So there is a lot of things that happen in this process of you awakening to understanding that we are in this matrix. Now, the more that we're in the matrix, the more that we see all of these things, and the more that we understand that there is something more out there, we feel like this matrix is so fake, we don't want to be here. So that's why we want to go home. We want to go to another place. In the meantime, we don't realize that, um, we cannot go into a 5D until we appreciate this 3D. So it becomes very like, oh my God, it's so beautiful here, to, oh, I hate this, all within one day or within a week or within a month. Definitely for me, it was within a day. I will go up and down, up and down. So you are going through all of these situation, and in the process of it, you also find, hopefully you find time to meditate, because that's going to help you go through this process in order for you to go through the process more smoothly, and less painfully, because it can be very, very painful process. But all of these things are happening in order for you to truly wake up to what is the purpose of you being here. Why are you here? And when you're in 21 divisions or any spiritual practice for that matter, a lot of these things happen because you haven't really paid attention before. You kind of ignore the spiritual aspect, and it had to be very harsh. Like you actually had to go through a lot of harsh things in order for you to wake up, because otherwise you're that hard-headed that you wouldn't pay attention. So you may be accessing and having lucid dream, going through the Akashic field, going through the astral planes. You may be feeling very tired. It's almost like a brain fog, right? Like you're just very confused, but at the same time, there is a little hungry, like a feeling of you wanting to know what else is there, because you can feel it. And when you're in 21 divisions, however you come into this practice or any other spiritual practice, because this is all a call for you to come back to yourself, to spirit. So I'm talking about no a religion. I'm talking about a spiritual concept of us waking up to us spirit in this 3D reality. So this spiritual calling is our higher self calling us back to realize that we are spiritual being having a human experience. So whether it is 21 divisions, Ifa, Santeria, Palo, Spiritismo, Muelterismo, Regla Mueltera, whatever it is, Wicca, Hoodoo, the point is that your higher self and your spiriting are calling you back to where you're supposed to have a source of wisdom and information and understanding to understand what is your purpose here. So when it comes to the stages in 21 division, I already talked about everything that happens, all the crazy things that happen, all the chaos. And that is the first stage of us going into any spiritual practice. A lot of chaos, things are not right. Like a lot of people going to IFA because there is an illness, there is something that they need to heal. A lot of people going to Palo because they can feel the spirits. It's just a strong calling. Some people going to Maltarismo or Voodoo, Wicca, whatever it is, or your own spiritual practice because you feel like something is not right, right? There is a lot of chaos, organized chaos happening to bring you back because your higher self is almost like fishing you out. Like, okay, we're going to have to do it the hard way. So you go through a lot of different experiences to come back to yourself, to come back to spirit, to come back to your real essence, the I am essence, right? That sometimes you have a dream and you feel like, oh my God, this is why I'm here. And you get that and you feel like, okay, I'm ready for this. But before you get to that point, you're going through a lot of chaos to take down anything that doesn't serve you, to realign your energy. And that's why a lot of people fall out of your life, friendships, relationships. That is the number one thing. Whenever I have someone that is coming and they're saying, I'm in 21 divisions, and the first thing that they say, oh my goodness, and I'm having issues with my partner, I'm like, I don't even want to say it because, it's the realignment of energy is going to take, if that person doesn't catch up with you quickly, it means that eventually you guys will not be together unless, if you lower your energy, you always feel guilty. And if they don't catch up quickly because they're not ready for that, they find somebody else. So anyways, I'm not going to get into those romantic issues because I don't want to make anybody a little worried about that. So anyway, so the first stage is a lot of weird things happen. You might be mounting, you might be channeling and you don't have no idea. Your visions will increase to the point that is crazy. You might be seeing a lot of symbols and hearing things in different languages. You might be smelling things like, oh, what is that? Why do I smell that? And it is all your higher self calling you back to your real essence so that you can understand your mission here. So when you go through the dark night, is the main process of you actually waking up. It's almost like you go through this pool of water, and if it's dark And it's like, oh my God, the dark night is a divine feminine energy, by the way. The dark night of the soul is a feminine energy because it's very dark, and it's your mother, the universal mother, trying to cleanse out everything that doesn't serve, so that you can, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps, so that you can become new. So we hate the dark night, but we don't understand how beautiful the process is, because we are so in pain. Oh my goodness, why is this happening to me? Why am I here? I want to go home. I don't deserve this. And eventually you come out like a phoenix rising, and you're like, oh my goodness, I came out. And it's because the dark night mother archetype is with you the whole time, letting you know, and helping to cleanse you constantly, so that you can become the phoenix rising, right? So the second stage is the dark night, so that you can get to the next stage, where you become super interested in what are the mysteries, what are these, what is that. A lot of people don't realize that they need to start with the ancestors, but let's assume that you're working with your ancestors, you understand that your ancestors are number one, and then you work with the different deities, the different mysteries, the different orishas, the different whatever it is, whatever you call it. And basically what you're doing is that hunger is coming back to you, so that you can really wake up to it, right? So you want to consume all the knowledge possible, because you're on this stage of you consuming the knowledge, so that eventually you can put it into practice. But before you put it into practice, you have to go into the process of leaving the 3D by assessing the 4D. And the 4D, the fourth dimension, is basically you looking from the higher planes, to see past, present, and future. Does that make sense? Past, present, and future all at once. And when you unite them, then you go into the next stage. But when you are in this consuming, eating all of that information, you're going, if you're doing it right, you're going through the fourth dimension to pick up information, to see things, to see ancestor, to talk to ancestor, to activate the power in your dreams, to see parallel life, to see the future, and everything all at once, in here now, in this present moment here now. When you do that, and you get a level of understanding that is beyond what normally people see here, things that you can normally communicate to others, because it's so convoluted, but it's so real, it. Then you're assessing the 4D, and you're going to a period of truly understanding why you're here. And that's when you bring a lot of balance into your life. And this is going to make sense later, if it's not making sense yet, because I'm going to break it down for you. So when you bring that yin and yang balance, and you're right in the middle of it, then you understand the opposites. Then you understand why everything has balance, why everything has polarities. You go into a period of understanding that many people, it doesn't matter how many books you read, but until you go through those different planes and you see them yourself, then you finally understand. It is with this stage, within your understanding stage, where you start respecting, just because, and you are seeing things in multiple dimensions all at once. So that one decision that you take, you can see the different outcomes before they even come through. So here you truly understanding the nature of life through your eyes. You're understanding your soul mission. So you are assessing the higher planes and the mental planes in order for you to activate the DNA potential. Does that make sense? Like, when you start activating the DNA potential and you surrender, then finally you get to the point where you actually you become a service to other. You surrender by releasing all the expectations of what it means to be a healer, to be a spiritual priestess, to be whatever it is, to be a mother, to be a daughter, you release all the expectations and you start fresh. Then you become a service to other. Those are the main different stages, and this is important if you want to understand the different life cycles, because a lot of people, they want the magic, they want the witchcraft, they want to know how to do magic, they want to know how to, but they don't understand the basic cycles of life. When you understand this that I just talked about, you'll see, I did this, that there is a cycle, up and down, like a snake, like the Kundalini. And if you understand this, and this is for the others too that I'm going to show you in a moment, because everything in life, even when we're in 21 divisions, we will see that we go through different phases. We don't learn everything, we don't know everything. So we go through a major aha moment, we finally get there, and then we have to enjoy it for a little bit, and then we start the next training, and we go through that training, we become enlightened again with something else, and we enjoy it, and then we go through the next stage, right? So it's a cycle. It repeats itself. It's like the snake that eats itself and it repeats. So I find this fascinating because even with the Odus, for those people that are into IFA and the different Odus and the quantum based spiritual practices, which is both, Voodoo and 21 Division is the same, except that we don't have those books. But with Santeria and Ifa, when we have those odus, we have a lot of information that can help us guide us a little bit. So in 21 Division, we depend on a lot of the elders, right, to give us knowledge. And if we don't have that, we have to hunt it out for ourselves. In Ifa Santeria, not only do they have the elders, the godparents, but they also have a lot of books that you can find where that's known as something that is very that we see a lot in 21 divisions, because there are no books that we pass down, like when you go to a reading, a consultation in Ifa or Santeria, they have the notebook, and you can create your notebook. That's why I tell you always create your own notebook and keep track of your dreams and all of that, because that's going to make a difference for you when you start truly understanding the different life cycles that you might be going through, in order for you to go through them more gracefully, with a little more wisdom. The first time we go through it is hard. The second time it becomes a little easier in terms of how fast we can bounce back, but it is very intense. So anyway, so I'm super excited about this, because for when I started my journey with going through getting my mano and getting the warriors, I was receiving so much information, and I wasn't really asking my godfather, because he's a very busy man. So when I was going through the ceremonies, one day he said, the Odus, they have opposite the opposite of the sign. So whatever your sign is, the opposite becomes another sign that you need to study in order for you to understand things, challenges, and things that are going to be good for you. And one of the signs that I was getting in my dreams was the sign that is the opposite to the one that came out when I got my manual. So I was super excited, because I like, okay, now the information makes sense. Like, I was getting a lot of signs and a lot of information. I was shown a coin, and I'm like, okay, now that makes sense, because the coin was flipping and flipping, like going like this. And I couldn't figure out what that meant. I couldn't find any information online. So anyway, eventually my godfather said, that's the reason why. So the contracting and expansion of each sign is very important for any of us to study if you're into IFA, because you're going to get so much information, wider perspective of a lot of things that are very important to you if you're into these studying the quantum based spiritual practice of IFA. So let me see where I want to start, because it's a lot of information. So let's see. I draw this because before we even get there, I want to say something. I want to clarify that one time I made a statement, and I don't know if I said it on YouTube or if it was just for myself, talking about how we want to skip the 4D, the 4D to get to the 5D. But what I meant is, it's not that we want to skip it, like no be there at all, but it's that we cannot stay there, because in order for us to enjoy the 5D, we have to enjoy and understand the 3D. And this is going to make sense in a moment, because I never talked about the 1D and 2D, but I have to break that down now so that you can understand something that I want to share with you. Because, for example, in the different dimensions and the different planes of existence that we talked about before in the different videos, we talked about the astral planes and the different dimensions and so on, and the different beings and all of that, right? But we never really talked about the 1D. The 1D is like the crystalline consciousness, right? Like the crystalline consciousness is the 1D. It has a lot of information, a lot of things that can be done with it, with these type of beings, because let's call them beings, to be honest. The 2D is the plant kingdom. The plant kingdom, as well as the animal kingdom, if we can say it like that, because even though the animal kingdom is pretty much in the 3D, right? But so it is the plant kingdom. But the plant kingdom only perceives information, right? Okay, so the first D is interdimensional insights. It has a lot of wisdom and knowledge from interdimensional um, beings. And we have seen even in quantum healing where we go into different dimensions, and there are different beings working with the crystals in order for us to send healing to the planet. So I'm not going to get into if it's true or no or all of that. What I'm saying is, first, the basically it is the crystalline consciousness. The second D is the plant kingdom, and the 3D is us here in this physical reality, right? But because we close our mind, we are spiritual being, and when we close our eyes and we open our, when we start thinking and we have thought, that is coming from a 4D reality. Does that make sense? Like, we are spiritual being in this 3D reality. So therefore, we are 3D, but we also exist in the 4D, and we are trying to get into the 5D space where we see things from a higher awareness and expansion in mind. So we are in the 4D constantly. When we go to sleep, we are in the 4D. We talked about this before. This is no secret, right? When we are in the 4D, it is from that perspective where we can understand things that normally we wouldn't, because we are so much into this reality that we don't take time to reflect. And when we reflect, we go into the 4D. Does that make sense? Please let me know in the comments area, because I want to make sure that I'm making sense here. This is important for us to understand. So from the 4D, where we have this understanding of things by going into the past, present, and future, by going to the astral and the mental planes and the higher planes from the 4D dimension, because we don't have to go anywhere. All we got to do is close our eyes. The 5D, therefore, is a mindset, is a different, is a dimension within our mind. It's not like some people think, oh my God, the planet is going to end and we're going to have to go to another planet. And it's not like that. The shift is already happened. It's not like it's an event where we're gonna get in a plane or some spaceship and they're gonna pick us up and go to another place, right? It's within this beautiful brain that we have, within this beautiful human body, we also have the connection to source that allow us to experience the different planes of a system. This is important because when we want to understand the Odus and 21 divisions and any spiritual practice, because the spiritual practice is calling us back to our higher self. Spiritual practice is no, I don't know how else to explain it, but it's basically spirit and the soul are saying, you're going to go through all this chaos so we can pull you back so that you can see your real essence. And when we see things from a higher perspective, we go to the 4D. And when we go to the 4D, we can appreciate the 3D in a 5D reality. So the 5D is when we see how everything is connected, how magical healing can be, how our mind can heal and create magic just with our mind. Like we don't have to do 100 things like some people think. Anyway, so now in in order for you to be able to manifest and control your thoughts and movement and all of that, you have to operate from a 5 and 6D reality. And I'm not going to get into that because a lot of people are just focusing on the 5D, and I think that's okay. If that's how you process that in your brain, that's okay. But anyways, when we understand the 6 and the 7 and the 8D and all of that, we can come back to the 5D and truly appreciate this beautiful life. And we become part of the matrix. We manipulate the matrix. So anyways, so when I talk about the fact that we want to skip the 5D, I'm talking about the fact that we don't stay there. We only go into the 4D when we dream, when we meditate, when we go and we can tap in with our eyes closed. I might be here and I am daydreaming, and that is 4D. It is no at this reality. So the 3D is this conscious day-to-day life. 4D is when we actually reflect and contemplate. And in order for us to go through the different cycles of life, we have to contemplate. And I'm going to show you how that happens right now. When we start here, this is let's say we're born and everything is beautiful. We are born. And then we go to the first down cycle. The first cycle is the male. When we see, who welcomes you normally when you come out of the belly? It's your father. That is the male energy. And when you go down this way, that's the female energy. And that is important because when we go into the female energy is when we go into the reflection, contemplation, understanding, elevated thinking that we need in order for us to elevate our thinking to get to the 5D reality or the 6D reality, whatever number you want to pick. Is that making any sense? Because I want to make sure that this is clear. So the life cycle, the Odus, anything that you can think of goes through this polarity because this planet is composed of polarity, up and down, the yin and yang, the sun and night, light and dark, right? So birth, death, rebirth, and then you go back and do it again. So I don't know if this is making sense. Please let me know in the comments if you're here. So when we start thinking about this is important, especially if you are a spiritist, santero, priest, priestess, palero, muertero, whatever you are. Now in this neutral point here between this birth and rebirth and dying again and reincarnating again, I was shown a revelation about this, how this can be nirvana. Because when we are right in between both, we appreciate the polarities. We appreciate the left planes, the right plane, and right in the center. It is our thoughts then that decides, are we manifesting what we want? Are we not manifesting what we want? Are we happy? Are we not happy? Depending how you see life, this is the nirvana point or the neutral point. But the point is, there is a problem here because in order for us to be in this reality, we have that neutral point. That is a perfect balance right there. The problem with the perfect balance is that there is no growth in that perfect balance. The universe always pushes us. Actually, the female mother archetype pushes us to continue moving. so that we can grow and experience life and learn other things. And that's why we go up and down, up and down. So from this neutral point, we can have bliss, but it can only be for a few, I wouldn't even say years. It's almost moments, because the moment that we realize we're happy, we look for something else, right? We want to do and continue growing, even though sometimes we don't want to. That's the intention of the universe, to help us continue to push forward so that we can learn and experience life in different ways. So, from this point of view, this perfect balance really doesn't exist for long term here, which is why we go up and down through the different life cycles. So, the down cycles tell us about the solution of self. This is when we take out the shadows, the fear, the doubts, the traumas. We get wiser, courageous, more knowledgeable, because we can reflect, we can study, we can do things that we wouldn't have been able if we didn't go through those tower moments, through those dark nights. That you know it's more than once. A lot of people think, oh my god, I am done with my dark night, so I'm done. And it's not like that. We go through several dark night of the souls in one life, because we have to experience the up and down. Is that making any sense? Please let me know. So when we go through those down, that's when we actually growing a lot. That's when we actually picking up everything that we need to pick up. Meaning, not only picking up, but dissolving away, but picking up a lot of knowledge, internal knowledge. When we come out of it and we are in the male energy, the expansion, because the female energy is the down, is the dissolution, is the shadows, it's the fear, is the doubt, is the transformation. But when we go through the up cycle and we're in the male energy, we are supposed to be integrating. We're supposed to be making sure that we don't repeat the same cycle, so we don't have to repeat the same dark night, that we don't have to repeat the same test. Unfortunately, if we repeat, sometimes we have to repeat the whole freaking lesson again. And trust me, I've seen that happen with myself. I'm not saying this just because I think it's cool. I'm saying this because I have lived it myself, where, oh my goodness, I thought I had learned my lesson. And unfortunately, I had to repeat the lesson until I really understood the lesson and couldn't make the same mistake because I was wiser. But it didn't come easy. So when we think of this, let's see if you guys can see this. In this 3D reality, we have what we call time, right? It is through this movement, like a Kundalini movement you see here, that we go through the different, it's almost like the feminine aspect of the universe is pushing us regardless of what we think we need and want. And sometimes we have no idea why we're repeating a lesson, or why a new lesson is coming up, or it might be something that you're picking up somebody else because you didn't know you had to deal with this too. And you are observing your behaviors, emotions, and traumas, and eventually releasing them, dissolving them, or bringing them to the light so that you can become a new person. And your consciousness expands because of this, right? So the concept of time and motion in this 3D reality kind of merges the past, present, and future so that we can observe ourselves from a 4D. I don't know if I'm making sense right now, because I want to make sure that I'm making sense. Please let me know in the chat area. So the expansion of the Odus, the light, the creation, the birth and rebirth emotion of the Odus is the male energy, is the expansion. And I'm going to go through the odors that are male and female, so you can keep track of those for you. So the contraction is the female odors, and that's when you're going through a lot of feminine energy, and it's pushing you to go inward. So inward is the contraction, and outward is the expansion of the odors. Okay, let's see. So Okay, so let me give you the Odus. I'll just give you the Odus. I don't want to make this too long. Okay, and I wrote them down so I didn't forget any. Okay, so we have a Giove Meiji, a Giove Meiji, and you know what? If somebody can write them down in the comments, that will be helpful so people can get them. Ejiove Meiji, the opposite sign is Ojekun Meiji, and obviously it's vice versa because Ojekun Meiji, the opposite of Ojekun is going to be Ejiove Meiji, right? The first sign is a male sign, and it is the principle of expansion. And when you think of this principle of expansion, you can also remember the energy of the East cardinal point because it's talking about masculine Leo, male, alpha male, the alpha and the omega archetype. Okay, so if you go down the different odus and you see Iwori Meiji, the opposite of Iwori, Odi Meiji, and so on, and then you go into Iroso Meiji, and the opposite is Ojuari Meiji, right? But what I want to do is, because you can do that easily by looking at your sign and flipping your sign. Like if you have, let me do this here. Like if you have this, which is a Giove Meiji, then you're gonna have the opposite, which is the other. So this is Oyekun, and this is a Giove, right? So what I want to do is give you like a little narration from the point when the Odu goes from one thing to the next and how is a life cycle and how you can see this Kundalini snake within the existing Odus, the main Meijis. And if you're new to IFA, this is gonna make sense to you too. But obviously, if you already know them, it's gonna be easier for you to keep track of it. So a Giove Meiji is the masculine principle of expansion. Here we see the alpha and the omega. We can appreciate this is like alignment with destiny. Like everything is freezy for these people, unless they're in a negative manifestation of a Giove. Ojeku Meiji, on the opposite, is completely the opposite of the Agiobe Meiji, which is the masculine energy, and Ojikun is the female energy. And is about major, like things are just hidden. These are this is the west. So Ojiobe is the east and Ojikun is the west, right? So you is completely the opposite. And there is a lot of darkness and a lot of things that are occult and a lot of things that are just transforming even though you don't see it. A lot of astral plane energy here, a lot of work with the eguns. um Anything, I mean, I think a lot of people know Jakumeji and the first four, so I'm going to focus on the next, the other ones that people don't normally hear about. But I just wanted to say that because I think a lot of people don't understand. So if your sign is a Giove Meiji, the opposite of that is going to be Ojikun Meiji, right? But even if you have one of the minor odus, the only thing that you have to do is completely reverse the Odu so you can get the opposite sign so that you can study if it's a male or female energy and so on. And that way you can see when you're going through your ups and down, and you can understand and study yourself. So Iwori Meiji is the principle of transformation. This is the first rebirth, like the first transformation, sorry, not the first rebirth. This is the first transformation when this is actually a lot of things are happening in the higher planes. The person is tapping into next level of information within the higher planes and is able to see things that normal people wouldn't be able to see. But the difference is that this person already went through the first death cycle, so it brings a different understanding. This is the north cardinal point, and it is a male energy. So Odimeji is a female, and this the old Odimeji is the principle of reincarnation. So this is the south cardinal point, and this is the point that completes all the four cardinal points. So this is the sign that completes the four cardinal points. So um, it talks about the female reproductive organs and all of that. I wanted to make sure that I gave you those four, because when we continue the process here, so you see the first birth, death, transformation, and rebirth. And then it does that for the rest of the odus. So when you look at your odu, you will see, and I'm studying this. It's not that I know this by heart. I am studying this just like you are. And, you can take what I tell you, but don't take it for like the ultimate truth, because what I study based on dreams, books, and revelations is my understanding. It might be completely different for you. I just want to make that disclaimer. So when we think of Iroso Meiji is the fifth Odu, and it is rebirth, the birth, death, transformation, and rebirth. So this is the rebirth, okay? And it goes through this process, and it is a male energy. So Ejiobe, male, Ojekun, female, Iwori, male, Odi, female, Iroso, male. And you see how it continues to do this. And now in Irosu Meiji, it is the sign where a lot of work starts happening with the ancestors. So we start honoring the ancestor. We start understanding how important the ancestors are to our stability. And we start communicating with them in a way that we can honor and venerate them in a very respectful way, because we can understand and appreciate. Because we can understand that and see it within the astral plane and the higher planes. We have a bigger appreciation for ancestors. We know they're not dead. We know they are existing in another dimension in energy form, and we don't see them like we can only talk to them when we go to the cemetery. It becomes a bigger, deeper understanding. Okay, so Ojuani Meiji. Ojuani Meiji is a female energy. Odu. It's a female Odu. And I think it was in Ojuani Meiji when, this Odu is the perfect representation of the the 6 pointed star. You know why? Because I don't know if you guys saw that. Because everything that's happening above is happening below. And this is a sign of Juari Meiji, or Wari Meiji, I think some people call it too. It has so many different names. This is a sign where you're getting information from above and actually bringing it down here to this reality. And you can make powerful things happen, right? And all of the signs have beautiful energy. I'm not picking one for another, but I'm saying this sign is a female energy, and you can see that a lot of things that are happening above that you're tapping into, you're also able to bring it down into this reality. And when do we do this? When we're going through the different spiritual phases. So it's not just the people that are Ojuari Meiji that can do this, is my point. Like, you don't have to be Ojuari Meiji in order for you to understand that everything that is outside of you is inside of you, and anything that you're understanding that is within the galaxies and everything like that, that you can make happen here, because you're operating from a different reality, from a different mindset, is what I'm saying. And then if we go into Obara Meiji is a male principle. And this, after you go through Ojuani Meiji, where you actually learning as above, so below, as above, so below. It is in Obara Meiji where you have gone through a lot of things, a lot of struggles, and you go through a major transformation in this reality here. The back of the neck chakra becomes very clear because you remove a lot of shadows and all of that. But you couldn't do that without going through the first 6 different odus, is what I'm saying. Like, I think it's like this snake. It's not that one becomes different than alone by itself. Like, we cannot go through this without going through the different odus and understanding the different odus, because it is a continuation of the other one. Does that make sense? Like, when we understand and we clear and we remove things and we clear the back of the neck chakra and we remove fears and shadows, then this leads to an inward transformation of who we become, a new person. So we have a lot of revelations in dreams in Obarameji. The power of our words become very, very powerful in Obarameji. And we start truly working with the eguns, not just honoring them, but also working with them. Does that make sense? Like, we actually start working side by side with them. And then after we do this, but now one of the things with Obarameji is that they have to have a lot of humility, because otherwise they can have a lot of struggle. They can be very self-centered. I'm not going to get into all the different things, but you know what I'm saying. If you're a bada, you know that you have this problem. I can say that I have that problem too sometimes, which is why I had to learn humility the hard way, because we deal with a lot of arrogance. So after we go through this major transformation and we clear the back of the neck chakra and all of that, and we expand our mind and we do all of that, then we go into the female principle of Okana Meiji. Okana Meiji is when we align the mind and the heart into coherence. And in order to do that, we have to go through a lot of different struggles, a lot of different traumas, and release a lot of different things so that we can align the heart and the mind into coherence, so that it can be properly balanced. It is in this sign that we understand emotions. So this sign talks also about the throat chakra and why the throat chakra can be very powerful. So we have to, this sign is where we start changing our behavior, because we're operating from the heart space as well. So when we do that, it's a feminine principle of the Okana Meiji. Now, so you can see male, female, male, female, male, female, and how it goes like this, right? Like, you have to pay attention to that. Like, I'm not making this up. You can read it in different odus. You'll see which ones are female and male. Now, when we go through, okay, let's see. We go through Okana. We are aligning the heart and the mind. We know that the heart has a mind, a brain. The heart, I'm sorry, the brain has its brain and is functioning and doing its thing, and the heart is also doing its other thing because it has a different brain. And if it's no balance, you're gonna be all over the place. So here you focus on aligning the heart and the mind into coherence, so that your emotions can be more fluid and you don't have to like be in this alignment and like have so many issues with being disappointed by other people and their behaviors and stuff like that. So you have to focus a lot of attention here on that alignment, so that it can, and in different quantum healing session, we see a lot of energy moving through the heart and the mind, like the kundalini. Because if it's not in alignment, you're going to be thinking one thing but you do something else. You want to do one thing but you cannot say it because you don't have the courage to say it, and so on. Then we're going to, from the Okana, which is a feminine principle, we go into Ogunda Meiji, which is a male principle. And the main thing with Ogunda Meiji is that these people have such a bad rap. I don't know why, but it's because they tend to be a little impatient, but also Ogunda Meiji is that energy of the supreme hard worker. And everything has to be hard because otherwise you don't deserve it. These people, I am in Ogunda as well. That is a sign that comes out often for me. And it's like, in order for me to deserve it, I have to work hard for it. And until we get rid of that mindset, we cannot become true manifester, because these people are the ultimate manifester if they can get over that everything has to be hard. Everything, I have to work hard, otherwise I don't deserve it. Somehow along the lines, whether it is past life or this life, someone put in your brain that you have to work hard to get what you want. So you don't get things easily. Everything has to be really hard for you, or you just don't get it. You don't go for it because if it's too easy, you think that you don't deserve it. Or if it is not really hard and you might be a workaholic, like I am a workaholic, right? Like you are such a workaholic because you think you always have to be working, 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 working to support your family, because it's all about supporting yourself and your family. But when you realize, oh, wait a minute, it doesn't have to be this hard, then you actually can manifest a lot of things, because these people of Oguna Meiji have every means of manifesting anything that they desire. So Oguna Meiji does, I have a book on Oguna Meiji. I don't know where it is, but Oguna Meiji is one whole book of Oguna Meiji with a lot of different things and stuff like that. And the main thing here is that you have to be courageous. You're creative, like you're basically a workaholic to his max. But when you overcome a lot of these things, because your creativity and your imagination is so powerful that you can make anything happen from nothing. But because you keep working so hard, you destroy sometimes what you build, and then you start all over. I went through that. So when we learn, we don't have to do it like that. Then we can become the manifestors that we're supposed to be, and life can be easier for us. One thing, though, is that these people do tend to complain about things. And when we complain, we're activating the power of our words. So we're complaining and is attracting more things. Okay, so let me continue because I have more. So yeah, complaining is a problem for Ogundameji, to be honest. Let me tell you this story because I found this story fascinating. When it comes to the EMEs, because I love the energy of the EMEs, and one of the patakis is that, and I'm not gonna do is honor because I don't remember word by word, but basically in Ogundameji is when the humans and the birds came down, and the they were hungry, they didn't have food. And then I think it was Eshu that came and said, you guys have birds, why are you guys, the humans, why are you humans dying of hunger? You have the birds. And the humans started to eat the birds, and they didn't realize that the birds were sacred to the Yamese. And one of the stories actually is that one of the birds that they killed, it was one of the kids of one of the Yamese. And it became a big problem. The Yamese went to Olodumare and say, they killed the birds, they killed my kid. And Olodumare say, yeah, they're guilty. So from now on, the Yamese have control over what happens to humans, can influence what happens to humans if they break the promise. Or because what happened is that they made a promise to one of the Yamese, no, when she went to the market, not to kill the kid, the bird that was one of the kids of the Yemens. And they did. They ate the bird that was one of the sons or daughters of the Yemens. I don't remember the whole thing. The point was that they killed the promise because they said, no, don't worry, we're not going to kill the bird. And the bird ended up being related to one of the Yemens. So it became this huge struggle, and they broke the promise. So Olodumare said, you know what? Yeah, they broke the promise, so they're guilty. So at that moment, the Yemens have the power to interfere in our life. And it was all because we broke the promise not to eat the bird that was related to the Yemens or something like that. You can look up the story. I don't remember the whole thing. The point is that when we break promises in Ogundameji, we have a lot of consequences. But also, this is a perfect transition to from what happened in Ogunda Meiji to what happens in Osa Meiji, because in Osa Meiji we also have a lot of information about the Yamins and all of that, and witchcraft. So Osa Meiji is a feminine principle, and a lot of astral entities affect us here in this sign, in this Odu. It could be because of karma, or it could be because of these life lessons, or whatever it is. But Osameji is a sign that can be challenging, and people can really lose it if they're not in balance. And it's a sign also that talks about being able to mount the different saints, the different orishas. So, it's a sign, a feminine principle that talks about, and again, remember the feminine principle is that darkness, mother archetype that is making us reevaluate, think, so that we can shed sunlight and come out of it, okay, and become wiser. So when we think of feminine principle versus the male principle, we got to be clear here so that you can study your sign accordingly. So in Osameji, feminine principle, a lot of astral entities, a lot of situation with witchcraft, a lot of I think there was, I'm not going to go into that because I have to go soon. But anyways, then we go into Ikameji. Ikameji is a little confusing to me, to be honest, because in Ikameji, a lot of people say that it's a male principle, but I see it as a female principle because of all the craziness that can happen in this sign. And it's a male, I read in a few books that is a male principle. And I love this sign. So no wonder there. It can be very dark sign. And it has that energy to work with the effectiveness of our prayer, our words, to make things happen, to do invocation, to call in different energies, to do anything that you can think of, like when we're chanting, doing mantras. The power of the word here becomes very powerful. And some people say it's male. In my opinion, I think it has a combination of both, because it is a little crazy sign. I think this is a sign that is represented by the two snakes, that they the two snakes, and also the snake that is his tail. So, but this sign came, it's almost like the energy of the horses of the mysteries, and that's why I like that sign, because this sign can mount different beings. It's very spiritual sign, but it can be affected by a lot of negativity, a lot of things that are in the astral planes, a lot of ghosts. It can be a lot of it can be quite difficult, this sign. This Odu, I think this is the Odu that that can tell the different spirits to, yeah, I think it's Ikameji, that can tell the different spirit to go away, when to tell them to recede to where they belong, when you are doing a reading with the tablero and all of that stuff. This is a sign that can ask the different energies that are present in the ceremony, in the consultation, to recede to where they belong. So it has a lot of sorcery and witchcraft energy of design of Ikameji. A lot of negative thoughts because of a lot of work with the eguns, a lot of work with the death energies, disembodied energies. So you got to be very careful here not to lose track of it, because if you do, you could end up being very negative and being someone that is easily bothered by obsessor spirits. You know, like I said, a lot of people believe it's a male principle. I believe it has both, but that's my opinion, because I see a lot of female energy in that sign, the way I see it. Then after Ikameji, we have another sign that I have, which is Otropum. Otropumeji is a feminine principle. I studied this sign because it's one of my signs. My sign is Ojekun Batrupo. So Ojekun Otropum is how some people might know it as well, or Oturupon. So Odrupomeyi or Otrupomeyi, this sign, um, a lot of instability in this sign, a lot of, it's a feminine principle, so you already know that it's a lot of forces, hidden forces, a lot of work with the goons, a lot of, this is the hermit mode, like to the max. Like these people love to be alone, or they end up alone, or they might end up alone because of everything that they deal with. The ancestor to the cult is key in this Odu, the Egungun, or working with your ancestor cult. It doesn't have to be the Guns, right? It could be from other different nationalities or spiritual practices. So Otrubun deals with spiritual consequences of having lack of courage. Like if you want to go for something but you don't have the courage, this signs is going to be like, well, if you don't do that because you're lacking courage, you're going to pay the consequences, and you have to build a lot of endurance in this sign, because it's not an easy sign. This sign is tough, is very much the, I mean, a lot of determination. But if you are in is negative manifestation and you're lacking courage, you know there is something there for you to study by yourself. Like these people also have to, they also have a lot of issues with different diseases, random things, and some of those things are spiritual diseases as well as physical diseases. So, and I think, yeah, this is my sign, the one that talks about and I'm not going to get into that, but anyways, these people can are very bold, they're very determined, but if something takes them to the point of like kind of doubting their determination or their courage or their abilities, it almost crumbles. So you have to be careful with this sign not to get to that point or let other people insinuate things to you that make you go down that route, because you, once you start doubting, you go down a rabbit hole. But this Odu is where you have disembodied energies talking to you constantly. And you know, in Otrupomei there is always constant communication. There is potential issues to have even memory loss because of everything that you're experiencing in the different higher planes. So you have to learn to balance and ground yourself, because otherwise you could pay the consequences by even having issues with your memory. So this Odu can can give orders to the disembodied energies, to the what we call in Ifa eguns, but you know, if you're not in Ifa, you might call the muertos, the ancestors or whoever you're working with. But basically these embodied energies that are in the astral planes and the higher different planes, especially the astral plane. So here you are powerful dreamer. If when you're in the dream state, you're like, oh, you're getting information. Your intuition is on point, very wise. If you go through a lot of reflection, because otherwise you might think that you know it all and you don't know one quarter. So then we move into another masculine, yeah, masculine, Otura Meiji. Otura Meiji, you go through that cycle with Otrupo Meiji, and then you go into the Otura Meiji, and you have peace and harmony. And remember, Otrupo Meiji has a lot of instability, but when you get into Otura Meiji, you go into a lot of harmony and peace. If you're in Ire, if you're in the positive manifestation of the sign of the Odu. So here you are truly aligning the heart, the mind, the spirit, the soul, and life is good. And you have a lot of wisdom, and you're like, ooh, I have clairvoyance abilities. I can see things. You know, life is good. Like you're really doing your thing. Um, what else? The here is like your Ori, higher self is like, okay, you're doing this, we're doing this, right? So things are moving in the right direction. There is little fear. You have conquered a lot of those fears with Otrupomeji, because in Otrupomeji you're going to face a lot of crap. And when you come into Odurameji, you are like, oh, thank goodness, it was just a test. So, and of course, it's no, I want you to remember that this is my interpretation of the Odus. This is no how everybody's going to see them potentially. So please keep that in mind. So once we come into Odura and we're integrating and we're like feeling this powerful, and we can achieve our destiny, and we're spiritually growing and life is great, then we're going to Irete Meiji. Irete Meiji is a feminine principle, and Irete Meiji is, I love this sign. I have no idea why I love this sign, because it's a feminine sign. But there is so much things here that we have to learn with this sign that you really have to be aware of. Because even if you're not an Irete Meiji or have Irete in you, know that you're going to get here someday. Because Irete Meiji is that feminine principle where, you're getting everything you want, but you have to have humility, because otherwise everything can crumble down. Your key to success here is not to be arrogant. Like if you're arrogant and like you think you know it all, and like there is no humbleness in you, you might as well like give your little luck to the side, because it's going to crumble down so you can learn your lesson. So Irete Meiji, it's a beautiful sign. This is like the high priestess energy, very much like working to expand the mind to the next level type of energy. But at the same time, it can get to the point where you think you know it all, and where you are no understanding that what you know is only this much, and there is so much more to learn. And because of that, sometimes you not only can you become arrogant, but also you might be dismissive of other people's ideas and things. You might be very dominating. You might be taking advantage of people because you think you know it all. You might be disrespecting people without understanding that you're disrespecting them. So humility here, it really is key to your success. Because for example, if you don't have respect for other people, because you think you know it all, you will have to repeat a lot of lessons over and over again, like a cycle like this, and it just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating, and to the point that it gets exhausting, and you have no idea why. And it's because you can be a lot of, like, you can have a lot of vanity. You can think that you're this grandiose person, and that you're the best, and that you're this, and you are living in illusion, and you're not being the person that you think you are. And therefore, because you don't have humility, you kind of like break down everything that source gave you, and you have to learn again, and everything breaks down. So these people can end up going through a lot of different, repeating different lessons over and over again, because of their grandiose, how do you call this, like they think so much of themselves that like they, nobody knows better, like only their idea, only this. So but it's a feminine principle that is going to bring you to, you can no understand the I am consciousness if you don't overcome and understand and become humble. That's why this sign is key for you to truly tap into your high priestess or high priest energy, the spirit is within you, the one that understands the I am consciousness. Because if you think in any way that you're better than other people, you can know, really tap into the I am presence, even though you may experience that for a few seconds or whatever. But it's not going to stay, because if you don't overcome that and take that wall down, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to do it unless you become the humble person that sees that God is the supreme, but also the one that bends over, right? Like you have to bend over to your other people in the term of bending over, like recognizing the humility, the grandiose energy in everything around you. It's not just you. For example, let me give you an example. I had a client, and I was doing quantum healing on this person, and when we finished, we were talking, and no, at the beginning we were talking and stuff like that. I don't remember now. Anyways, we're talking. I don't remember if it was the beginning or the end. Anyway, and this person, she shifted in front of me, and I'm like, oh my god, like really, like I saw a freaking archangel at that point, and I was like, oh my god, this is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. Like I'm thinking in that moment, I'm blending in with her energy, and her face became distorted, and I just went in through her eyes, and I saw the beautiful angel, and it was like almost a reflection, but it was her. And I almost was like, this is so beautiful, like I was in awe. But bending over, what I mean is, in that moment I was so in, like, in disbelief that I was able to experience that oneness with this person. I almost bent myself over as a symbol of her grandiosity that I saw within her. I hope that makes sense. So when we see our light, we also have to see the light in others. So I love that this Odu Iretemeji, because it reminds me of that. It always reminds me of that. Yeah. Anyway, so then we have Oshimeji. Oshimeji is a male principle. Oshimeji is a sign that has been coming out a lot lately, for me, in terms of me going through my different signs, Odus, and understanding different lessons from them, right? So when I think of Oshimeji, what I think of is the person that, this sign talks, a lot of the signs talk about different sacrifices. You gotta sacrifice. And what I see the sacrifice is, did I go in when I was in the female energy, in the female principle, and did the job that I was supposed to do, so that I can integrate now and become a better person? That's how I see it. The Oshimeji has a potential to receive a lot of prosperity in all its way: material, emotionally, mentally, physically, everything, right? Like a lot of prosperity, but they have to be faithful. If they lack faith in spirit, if they lack faith in their power, in their self-confidence, and things like that, it's going to be very chaotic for these people, because this sign goes through so many challenges that it truly becomes tiring to go through all the different challenges, because we want to win no matter what. And this is a sign that it reminds me of my mother. When I was young, my mother told me something that always stayed with me, and she said, sometimes when we lose, we win. And I looked at her like, well, that makes no sense. I was a teenager. And then when I learned this sign, it always reminds me of my mother, because she's like, even in the different business things that we have done, that sometimes I want to be so aggressive. And she's like, remember, when we lose, we win. And I'm like, what is she talking about? Right? Like, sometimes it didn't make sense. Sometimes I just wanted to be like, and attack. And she's like, no, let's reevaluate this. So you got to be very strategic here. Success is imminent for this sign, but you have to have patience and you have to learn to do things. This is a sign. I love this sign also because it talks about, how do you call this in English? Magnetic passes, and working with your hands in order for you to activate your chakras in your hand, in order for you to receive energy, calling, invoke energy, receive it, and with your hands be able to do healing work. So working with our ancestors also is important here. But one of the things of this sign is that you have, by the time that you get here, if you haven't learned that your physical body is important, then you have to do a lot of lessons again. Because one of the things that, for me, the physical body, is just a physical body. And lately, especially lately, more so than ever before, it's like you're not paying attention to your physical body. And I'm like, but it's not important. I'm like in the higher planes all the time. Why do I care about the physical body? Well, in order for you to truly understand what it means to live from a 5D, not only you have to understand why this physical body is more than just a physical body. I'm like, oh my God, that's so boring. But the point is that in Oshomeji, there is a lot of health issues because by the time that we get to design, we have to understand the cycles of life and how we cannot have everything, we cannot enjoy the benefits of our wisdom and spiritual understanding and pass it on if we're not here to pass it on. It's harder. So in order for us to stay here, we have to have this physical vessel to be in better shape. So anyways, that's my speech for myself. So health is important here for our vitality, but also there is a lot of sadness and tears in this time because Oshimeji, like there is a lot of challenges. People can be very impulsive. I love this sign too because this sign has Nanaburuku, and I love the energy of Nanaburuku, but also um the okay, Nanaburuku. Why? Because in this Odu, she is the mother of Oshun. That's one of the ways that they explain it in some of the books that I've read. But this sign talks a lot about being very, very strategic because you have to know that now you have lived a lot of different cycles, whether it is if you're born with this Odu, maybe it's from past lives or something like that, but you have learned different cycles and you have to apply it. So these people, it's almost like the number of cheat sheets that you can get with another sign, you might not have it with this sign, with this Odum. So there is a lot of quiet tears of repression and sadness because you also feel very misunderstood. So these people tend to be a little weird too. So, and then after this male energy principle, we go into a Fum, which is the last of the system mages. But there is a lot of controversy with Ofun because in some books I have read that Ofun is the father, the mother, and Ejiovet is the father of the next 40 mages, and obviously the next 240 minor odus, right? So in some other books it's no Fun, is Ojekun. So whichever way it is, the point is of Fun is a female, principle, a lot of occult knowledge, very wise people. They are very much into the occult. They can pick up information from other, like they're channelers, they're horses of the mysteries. These people are the people that can work and pick up the dead, wake them up and have them work for them, command them. They have a lot of potential. This is a female principle that is calls for a lot of patience and a lot of understanding, because otherwise you can end up like you can be right in the middle of the left and the right planes, and you got to choose wisely. Like if you're in the middle here, and I explained this earlier, so if you're just getting here, you might want to see the beginning of the video. But if you're right here and you are in the middle of the left and the right planes, a Fung is right there in the middle, and he or she can decide if they go to the left or to the right. But they sometimes they try to work both, and a lot of things happen because of this, a lot of consequences. So you really have to work you got to pick wisely, and you got to be very patient. Like you really have to work to span your mind to remember what you did in different past lives, so that you don't make the same mistakes, because these people do have a big responsibility to, as the one that can also work with the different higher and the mental and the astral planes and the different beings from other places. These people can be also, they love power and they can be very greedy. So you have to work hard to have balance, because you can take it too far. um you know if you're not really understanding, fun is like the cascarilla, right? So the white, it represents a lot of whiteness. But if you're not careful, you can choose the things that are not for your highest good for this life here now. So what else? I think I think that was all that I wanted to say. Of, like, for example, let me give you an example of, okay, so to avoid problems in a phone magic, you have to really apply yourself, reflect, contemplate, and you really have to have good support system, because some people get carried away by the power, and they end up causing a lot of negative things for themselves and their families and descendants. So these people really do need to have the proper support, so that they don't become crazy with the power, because they can become crazy with power. These are people that are easily influenced, can be easily influenced, in my opinion. Again, this is all my opinion. I am no, I'm no, in no way, I'm just sharing what I have learned from my experiences, my dreams, revelations, and what I have been reading in different books. So this is my opinion. But in my opinion of Fumeyi is that these people really have to be careful not to take it too far, because they have so much wisdom that they might have a very hard time seeing the left and the right and knowing which one is right or wrong, because they can stand right in the middle, and from there choose to do both. And when they see so much power on the left planes, because things become faster, they might choose that side, is what I'm saying. Okay. So when let me give you my example of my Odu. Ojekumba Trupo, the opposite of Ojekumba Trupo is Oveate. When I was getting a lot of information for Oveate, that I didn't know that it was something that I should be looking into, I was just getting the information in my dreams and revelations and visions. And I was like, well, I don't understand why this is coming out, because my padrino told me that my sign is this. And then eventually, I had a conversation with him, and he clarified some things, and he said, well, the opposite will be your beate. And remember, we talked about this at the beginning. There is always the contraction and the expansion of each sign. So Oveate is the expansion, because my sign, Ojekumba Trupo, is two energies that are female principles, contracting. A lot of work with eguns, the death, disembodied energies, and all of that. So what people see is no Oye Compatrupo. What they see is Oveate, the expansion, because that's what people see. So in Oveate, when I was getting a lot of information for Agayu Solar, I wanted to be my guardian angel to be Agayu Solar, because I was like, oh my goodness, like the dreams and the visions with Agayu were so powerful, and I loved it. And also getting information from, anyways, I'm not going to get into that. The point is that I was sure my um one of my main energies that worked with me was Agayu Solar. Anyway, so that came through as through Oveate, not through Ojekumba Trupo. So in this sign, we have to allow ourselves to receive help from others. We cannot be too proud, too prideful, to the point that we say, no, I don't need your help. And I think I still have that problem. I do have that problem still. So, but anyways, the point is, when you analyze your sign that you receive, you see the opposite, and then you see what else is there for you. Because, for example, this sign is shines. Oveate is a sign that people see it because it's expansion. People can be very jealous because they're like, everything is easy. They don't understand my real life is completely different. But what I see is everything is easy. Everything is easy. So there is a lot of jealousy and all of that stuff, because that's what they see. It's almost like with the zodiac, we have the sun and the moon sign, right? The zodiac, similar to that. What you are and what people see may be completely different. And, for example, I'm in Scorpio, sun, Scorpio, moon, Pisces rising. So that's, anyways, I think you get my point. I think you get my point. But this is a sign also that talks about working. Not only Oyekun Batrupo are two signs that says everything is about spiritual life. But in Oveate too is a sign that talks about working with the guns before any other energy, before any other deity, so that we can have the blessing of our ancestors and those that are in the astral planes that are willing to help us and give us answers. So let's see. Let's see some of the comments. And I think I'm going to end it here because it's almost 4. Okay. Bryce. Oh, good. I'm glad it's making sense because I wasn't paying attention to the comments before just so I didn't get distracted. So thank you for letting me know. Ogun Meiji resonates heavily. Why are you crying then? What does it mean, the refresco de cabeza entail? Many blessings. The refresco de cabeza in terms of 21 divisions or in IFAM? There can be a little difference depending on the refresco de cabeza is to align the ori, right? But in some 21 divisions ceremonies, the refresco not only is to align, but also we do it for different purposes. So it depends. What about if you what do you mean? Hello, my name is says, what about if you're the exact opposite? What do you mean? Please let me know. I'm curious about that. I think I'm gonna do another live to discuss, because I did say that I was going to talk about the refresco de cabezas. That will take some time to explain some things, so I don't want to get into that now. Maybe at the end of this week or early next week, I'll be able to do that. I don't know if hello, my name is can clarify what do you mean by you're the exact opposite. But I think you got my point about why it's important to. I don't like to see myself, so I gotta pull my other screen. So I think you get the point of why understanding the different cycles is important for us to know. Okay, well, I have one sign. That sign doesn't mean that it's gonna stay with me forever. It doesn't mean that is the only sign that I need to pay attention to. It doesn't mean that there are no other things that I can learn from the different odus. That's why some people only focus on their main odu and they forget everything else. They don't study anything else. And I think that's a big mistake because you're leaving a lot of knowledge on the table. And especially if you're serious about your spiritual practice, it doesn't matter if you're into IFA or no. The reason why I like studying IFA is because there is a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, and I pick and reading between the lines. Everything is not 100% to me. Everything is not 100% what it says, because remember, these odus have been translated by humans that can, through the level of consciousness, change what something means. And one thing might mean one thing for somebody else and something different for you. So I read in between the lines. I do not say, okay, the old says this and that's it. No, I have to study why. I have to understand why. And the more that I study, the more that I can understand and appreciate the wisdom. Because to me, if the Odus are quantum based um, information for me to study, to pick apart and study. I cannot just read it word for word and believe that I have the answer, because otherwise I am not making use of this brain to be able to analyze and interpret things based on my understanding of what I have experienced and so on. So we cannot just read it and think that's it, right? So I think I'm gonna leave it here because it's almost 4 p.m. and I really have to go. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. Please leave comments in the comments area, and definitely if you haven't, definitely stay tuned for the next. I was just trying to see when I was going to do it, but I don't know when I'm going to be able to do the next one. But I will answer that question about the refrescos and what it entails. It can be ceremonies for days, or it could be just one ceremony, or it could be something that you do at home, So it really depends on what you need. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.